Okay, we're recording. Does it tell you?
I see the little red
Okay,
light.
cool. So,
Okay.
right, as you know,
Awesome.
as much as you don't look older than me, you are older than me. So, I want to know your opinion, right? All this
Uh-huh.
stuff that goes around in the world where everyone starts to panic and everyone follows everyone, these massive events which end up not being massive at all. It's just the media making everything bigger than it actually is. What's your theory on this and whether this is just another one of those things that people just hype up and it goes down? Or is this actually serious compared to like the Spanish flu long time ago, which had a massive effect on everything and everyone?
Well, first of all, I think it is serious. Second of all, I think we've all been connecting anyway, though. And first of all, before I continue, let me just introduce myself. So all your friends out there know who I am. I'm Maria. My name's Maria, and I live in California. I have a podcast called Strong Body, Strong Soul. And Oliver and I actually met through a Facebook group a while ago now. And that's how we are connected through the podcast a little bit. And so I was happy to come online here with him. It is early in the morning. It's rainy here, and my dog is here now, but you might see his tail come up into the screen. But Oliver and I made plans to have this conversation a while ago. It's been in the works. It's not just because of the coronavirus that we're having this conversation. So I want to say that first of all, it's not forcing connections that weren't there necessarily either, right? Um, I think that the media does have some responsibility in hyping it up. I think this particular episode of what's going on in a global sense is obviously a human concern. It has nothing to do, like you said, with religion or politics, anything. I think obviously the body count in Italy, in China, all over the world is rising. So I think it's very serious. I mean, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. The Stand is like my favorite book. But I also believe that science fiction, frankly, and imagination has always been preparing us and helping us transition and deal with the trauma that's happening in the world. Unfortunately, right now is becoming more and more like a sci-fi movie. Um, I just, everybody needs to do their best to keep themselves safe and not point fingers at blame because it's out of our control. There's no political party in charge. There's no media that's going to be making money on this. Everybody's losing money. Everybody's losing lives. That's the first thing. And it's just a real slap in the face, I think, to humanity that we've gotten to this point that money has seemed like such a motivator. And this is just really taking us down and reminding us of that.
Yeah, like everything in life that happens, there's good and bad that comes from it. You can focus on good, you can focus
Yes.
on bad, right? Like anything,
Yes.
you can
Yes.
always, depending on whether you're a positive person or negative person, depends on how you see a situation. You can look at things
Mm-hmm.
as a bigger picture in terms of humanity. We're so obsessed with politics, who's in charge, jobs. We hate and we're negative and we're destructing and we're jealous and we're fighting in like
Yeah.
Black Friday. We're trying to fight over things. And it takes, unfortunately, something like this for humans to connect. So in terms of a bigger picture, this should be a turning point because you're seeing how so many people are coming together through all around
Mm-hmm.
the world who simply wouldn't have done if this situation hadn't have occurred. And so that is a
Mm-hmm.
good thing where we all wake up and realize, okay, the stock market has lost £8 trillion literally in a week. Money doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
anything. We've all lost our
Right.
jobs. People are dying. And you start to realize the basics of just human connection. You go back to
Yeah.
our primal evolution of just, 15, 20 people in a small tribe, in a small cave, and we all work
Right.
together to survive. And it makes you realize what we see out there is simply non-existent because we need the people around us to love and help us and to serve us. And so what you
Right.
see over there is irrelevant. And we're so focused on stuff out of our control across the other side of the world that's becoming our main focus point, and we're worrying about stuff that's happening over there, and we're forgetting about like your old neighbor over there who's just
Right.
crying out for attention for someone to come and just make her a cup of tea. The real things that are important in life.
Right. Right. Well, let me tell you, a couple of months ago, actually, one of my neighbors, she was walking down the street looking a little sad, and I was walking my dog. We had a conversation. Turns out her husband had died 6 months prior, and I didn't even know. And she lives 2 houses away from me. And she told me this, and we sat in a park for a while talking about it. And she's not much older than I am. And I just started crying because I was so sad, because I can't even imagine losing my own husband. But the sadness that I didn't even know that her husband had passed was just overwhelming. We can get so busy. You're absolutely right, in our own lives. And absolutely, the virus that's going on, we need to pay attention to what's happening on the other side of the world, because it is spreading everywhere. So we do need to take precautions and figure out how we're going to deal with it when it is in our neighborhood. And it is in our neighborhood, but you need to pay attention. I also want to say, this connection that we're having through technology, I think, and part of my show, a big incentive for me starting my podcast and my YouTube channel, is to show that connection between human beings. Everyone doesn't necessarily understand or resonate with what I'm talking about on occasion. And I know from looking at your show, you are my people, Oliver, because law of attraction, all that kind of energy that you resonate with people, oftentimes you don't know where they are. You don't need to know their name. It's okay. I don't know who's watching this video. I don't know who's hearing our voices, but I think it's a responsibility for us that are able to and willing to put ourselves out here on social media and use the technology. It's our responsibility to get our voices out there and help people shift and help remind them that they're not by themselves. Somebody out here watching, they obviously are able to afford a device of some sort so they can listen to this interview or watch this video, but they don't need to call us and talk to us necessarily. Our energy can help them without that connection. And that's what I think, it just explodes. It enables positive energy to absolutely explode and exude and permeate households and souls out there without that need for living next door to us. We're absolutely able to, our neighborhoods, our world there's a little piece of our world all over the planet. And it's connecting those pieces, those souls together, creates a stronger web, a stronger infrastructure of positive energy.
Yeah, like
That's what I believe.
There's 8 billion humans, right? And like 60-70% of them, 80-90%, don't know the law of attraction, power of the mind. They're just stuck in their ways of doing their same thing over and over and over and over again.
But you know what? They don't need to know, because it's operating anyway. It is operating. They don't need to know those terms even. It happens. It's just like the virus. It happens whether we acknowledge it or not. Like a lot of people and everyone acknowledges those terms or those ways of thinking, or maybe they think of it in different terms, but it works, and it's happening without our control. That is out of our control as well. Just like this broadcast, we don't know who it's going to touch.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I agree. It's working all the time.
Yeah.
But you're saying about how there's glimpses of us all around the world. I presume you mean like awoke people, positive vibrations.
Yeah.
They're all over the place, but because there's less of us, it's rare to find. I remember when I first came across all this law of attraction stuff, just by seeing somebody else speaking about it, made me realize I'm not alone, and there's fucking not millions out there, but there's hundreds. And that was enough for me to realize those people who I see as elite people speaking, they have the life that I want. I can be one of them, and we're resonating on the same frequency. And then all the people around you who don't know it, you don't care that they're not the same as you, or you're not the same as them anymore, because you see in the place that you want to go, and those people are the same as you. So now you all of a sudden are become awake. You don't
Yes.
see, you become enlightened. Like, you're like, why is it that I'm different? Why does no one understand? And you see all these people explaining the same reasons that they got to where they are,
Yes.
and you think, wow.
Yes.
And then your life
Yes.
begins. Like, my life began at 21 and it ended at 21 because I was on the edge of just like, didn't want to be here anymore. And I came across all these videos about the people thinking about the same stuff I was. And I was
Mm-hmm.
suddenly aware that Oprah Winfrey knows this, Will Smith knows this, Bob Proctor knows this. All these people know all the stuff that I've always known growing up, but none of my friends
Uh-huh.
ever knew. And you start to like hate yourself because you're not normal as them. But then you look at these people and you see that is my life in terms of the future. It
Absolutely.
incredibly changed me. And I never spoke to these people, as you said. Just knowing these people are out there, just knowing this conversation
Absolutely.
exists will show somebody
Absolutely.
who's in that cross path of getting to that enlightenment that they've reached it, and
Yes.
they got to keep going, and they'll find more people like us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other part of that is that everybody reaches that awareness on their own time schedule. You know, bless you, 21 years old is young. A lot of people don't reach that plateau till they're 70, you
Very young.
know? And some people, I teach meditation classes to kids. So sometimes I'll have a group of 10-year-olds and a couple of them will resonate with it so deeply and just love it so much. But their moms are a little bit freaked out. And so it's really interesting to see it cross generations also. And it's that comparison to other people that often stops people from growing. They think they're supposed to be a certain way and they won't open up to new ways of thinking because they're so mired in what their immediate family and community, who they think they are, and they stay that way for a long time. So absolutely, conversations like this are vital. You know, open up, don't be scared, but also admit that even as a parent trying to teach your kids a certain way of being, you can't teach them. They need to learn it on their own. And you also have to be so humbled to believe and acknowledge that your voice and your way of explaining it may not be the way your kids need to hear it. They may need to hear it from someone else. A person in any religion, for instance, maybe their child is going to reach God and reach that higher level by listening to a different religion. Maybe that will resonate with their child. Same thing with coaching, with any kind of sporting event. You know, people can get so mired in, we're going to get the best coach, the best coach. But you know what? That one down the street from you might be the one that your kid is going to really respond to. You don't know. So as a parent, sometimes I think that's so important too, because sometimes people who are trying to be teachers or parents or what have you, they feel like they're the ones that they're supposed to explain it, and they get defensive and they don't allow their kids to go elsewhere because they have a certain idea of what that means. So it's really important, that compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, awareness that your voice may not be the one that's going to help someone reach that next level. You know,
It's like
I talk about, yeah,
whatever vibration someone is at any time, that's made up of their thoughts and their knowledge, etc. And
yeah,
it's like it's like the piano. You go C D E F G A B C D E F G A B C, right? Every time you hit a C, could be somebody mentioning about this. A parent doesn't have to get them from like octave C here all the way to octave C there, because that path will happen over time, and each person
mm-hmm.
that they meet will add to that frequency, those vibrations. So yeah,
Yes,
you can't
yeah,
teach someone the whole journey. And I realized with my friends, I try to teach them all this, and I realized that most of them, because they never cared or heard about it in the first place, they would listen to what I was saying, they'd see the results, and they relapse back into their normal life when I wasn't there. So unless that person is already at a frequency where they are in tune to this stuff, they will get
mm-hmm.
there themselves. And they can only learn through trial and error and through accident and
Uh-huh.
consequence. Things have to happen in their life where they go into their mindset and they remember that person said this, or my nan said this, or my neighbor said this. For example, looking back, my parents didn't teach me any of this, okay? My dad always taught me, believe it's all in your head, blah, 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 blah. He never explained what was in my head. He just said it was in your head. All my problems are in my head. And then as
Uh-huh.
I meet different people, they all say one thing, and I connect all those dots, and that gives me the answer. So a teacher may say something, a friend's mum, a neighbor, online TV. The child has to put that together, which only happens over time. No one
Right.
person can teach somebody something. If the brain's not there in the first place, you're wasting your time. Even though you want to help your kids and give them the best life, they do
Right.
have to go down their own path. And
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, it's like
Absolutely.
religion. They learn through another
Right.
religion and they find their own God.
Exactly. But I will say, though, you just said you're wasting your time. I do not think, though, that any breath is wasted. I don't think that any time is wasted. I think even if you, with your group of friends, if you give them a little glimpse of what you've become, what you've learned, if they see it 10 years from now, they may look back at that bit that you gave them will help them then. And I think the same thing is true with any kind of, you call it spiritual awakening, enlightenment. There are ups and downs and ebbs and flows. You're going to go through a period of time where you feel like you almost have it all figured out. You feel like you're there. And then you could go into a trough and forget and go into your old ways. But the more enlightened and awakened you are, the shorter those periods of time are. And they're vital for you to grow. You can bounce down and go up again. And they happen naturally. And no guru in India is like at some plane and stays there all the time. It's a part of humanity to have those ebbs and flows. The same thing with the learning process. Like you just said, you go through your life and you take little bits of everything and you piece it together in everybody's individual um, growth. Spiritual growth is different and so unique for each person. But I don't think any breath is wasted. I think everything, just like tragedy and trauma, just like what we're going through right now for the whole entire human race, this is a huge blip on the radar.
So
You
you're right,
know,
actually. Just because they didn't get to the level I wanted them to get at when I was teaching
yes,
them doesn't mean it's wasted. So you're right. I shouldn't have said it's wasted,
exactly.
because in years to come, for example, when they're going through a divorce or they've lost a parent or whatever, something that I said 10 years ago might trigger something off. So you're right. It's not wasted in terms of the bigger picture, even though
It's
I did
not
waste
wasted.
even though I felt like I was wasting my time because they weren't progressing at the rate I wanted to within 3 months. So yeah, you are right. It's not a waste of time.
Exactly.
You've
And
missed
let
it.
me go further. As a teacher, you're a natural teacher. But what's coming through you to help other people around you, the words that you speak are actually helping you. So nothing you do is wasted. Even if you're talking to a rock that isn't
True. Very
hearing
true.
you at all,
Very true.
you sharing, just by virtue of you sharing your information, is helping you and enriching you and making you larger.
It's true.
You are becoming larger.
When I
Yes,
speak out loud, like I used to speak to the voice in my
absolutely.
head, right? I believed it was my grandma's spirit. Okay, I heard her
Uh-huh.
speak in the third voice. Like, you need to do this. Essentially, when my father stopped telling me what to do, I was lost, and I had to learn to work things out myself. And that voice was essentially, it could be God, it could be my dad, it could be you, it could be anyone. It's just somebody giving advice. I thought it was my grandma's spirit because I was lost and I was searching and believed in ghosts and all that nonsense. Anyway, the point is that it wasn't my grandma, it was just my own voice, my own knowledge that I'd always learned from my parents, for whatever, but been spoken back to me, and I followed it as if it was somebody telling me, like my dad. But actually it was just me telling myself, me following my own voice. So
Right.
I used to speak out loud, right? I used to have the chatter in my head, which is me asking questions and then hearing the answers from the third person, almost like a teacher. You say,
Uh-huh.
how do I do this? And they would say, well, you need to do this. But I thought that was my grandma. It wasn't. And I remember many, many times I used to be in my head for so long, or so many periods of time, for hours and hours and hours, that I suddenly start to say things out loud. And I'd become aware, has anyone just heard me say that? Like, they might think I'm possessed because no one's around. and I suddenly found
Right.
myself speaking out loud, like, well, why
Uh-huh.
is it that this happens? And then I realized by me speaking out loud healed me, as
Yes.
opposed to going over it in my head, because when it's in your head, it's the same energies going round. You need a release at some point. And so when I was speaking to, for
Absolutely.
example, The Rock, I was speaking to my grandma outside. I was saying, Grandma, please help me. Why is this happening? I need answers, blah, 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 blah. I gained answers because I listened to my own voice and I learned from what I said, and I
Yes.
adjusted what I was saying, and I learned something when I spoke out loud. Like when I teach people,
Yes.
I suddenly
Yes.
become aware, actually, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have said that because this
Yes.
happened. And I only learn
Yes,
when
that
I'm speaking to
happens.
people, because I'm following them, following me. And if, for example, I'm
Yes.
looking at them and I realize that they have got lost in what I'm saying, it means that what I've said doesn't make sense. And then I've got to
Yeah.
suddenly quickly backtrack and realize,
That
actually,
never happens to me. No, just kidding.
I was wrong, and I need
It's
to, and suddenly I'm like,
perfect.
actually, forget what I just said. And then like, oh, okay, then. And I've got to sort of erase what I said, readjust, and I've learned just by speaking out loud. So there's a lot of power speaking to a rock or praying to things
Absolutely.
there. It's just emitting it, and it comes back in a way that it doesn't, when it
Absolutely.
goes around in your head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why people are all different how they process information. Of course, the first thing a therapist will tell you is to start journaling, right? A lot of people transmit information through writing. And by the way, handwriting, physical handwriting is more powerful than on a keyboard.
Absolutely.
It's just a
I did all that
neurological
when I was
thing, that
enlightened.
connection, right? But some people have more value in communication through audio, just like you say. That's why I myself have embraced podcasting so much, because it's recording my voice out there to help other people. But I'm not even kidding you, Oliver. Sometimes I'll go back and listen to my own podcast a year later, and it will help me. I will listen to my own voice and be like, did I really say that? And it's such a beautiful reminder that everything that comes through us is from a source outside of ourselves. When you were just talking about your grandma right there, too, I was thinking, you know what, Oliver, it was your grandma. You are your grandma.
Absolutely.
She is you. She
Absolutely.
always was. We are all each other. So
So
it's hard, especially when somebody's gone and not on this earth anymore. The lines really get blurred and melded together all at the same time. It's just beautiful.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like all knowledge and wisdom, even back in Jesus' day, gets passed on through humans, and the wisest person absorbs
Yeah.
all of that and tells all these other people. And some know lots, some don't know much at all. So yeah, my grandma's knowledge taught my mum, and my mum taught me.
Mhm.
So yeah, my grandma was
Uh,
always there. But I believe
right.
strongly in numbers. So the dates that you're born, for example, if you're born on a pattern of 7, 14, 21, 28, you've got extremely high energy, right? And so my dad was born on the 14th. My mum was the 21st. I'm the 28th, right? But
Ah,
as you can see, my dad is half of me, so I depended on him completely. Uh, but we came to a point where he was like, I can't help you anymore. You've got to do it by yourself. And I had to cry, etc. That was when I was 20, right?
uh-huh.
And then obviously that 14, I had to make up myself to become 28, to complete myself, right? And my grandma was born on the 28. So I was 28,
Uh-huh.
my dad was 14, and then my grandma was 28. So her energy completed me. My energy that my parents had both taught me became me and completed me. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was a very interesting time. I was speaking to someone that
Cool.
wasn't there actually, who ended up healing me.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Well, I think the other part of that is too, anyone that you're teaching, a part of you is them. And
Absolutely.
so oftentimes when people hear us speak, anyone speak, and they are reminded of something that they already know, that's what an aha moment is. When you remember, when you really resonate in such a deep, soulful way with something someone is saying, you're realizing you did already know that. That's the aha. It's in there.
What I
So I
find is
just
that
think it's brilliant.
what I find is that when you reach a certain level of wisdom, okay, there isn't much more to know above that, because all energy has come from what we already know. And if Jesus say was the ultimate in this knowledge, well, then you can only really learn from moving forward in life, and you can only really know up to his level. But what I find is that when there's, even though you think there's not much more to know because you kind of know it all, the knowledge comes from reinforcing yourself, reaffirming the knowledge you already knew, should have been practicing, but weren't putting into place. So you're searching for new knowledge, and then you realize, I already bloody knew this, but it was written or understood in a way that wasn't what you thought you were looking for. But it's the same damn thing. It's like looking for God, looking for grandma. It's the same thing. And I'm like, well, I always knew spirits
Yes.
existed. I'm looking for God. He's not communicating, but grandma's here. So I realize
Yes.
sometimes I'm looking for something I already know, and I don't need to look and gain a new information. I just have to go within.
Yes. 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 And that's what makes a great teacher too, because any great teacher will tell you they learn the most from their students. It's a whole cycle that keeps coming back to nourish the teacher as well. And I think from a podcasting perspective and from our conversation, any kind of human interaction, that is where the real growth happens, is in conversation. Because if you're just having a monologue all the time of spewing what you know without someone commenting a little bit here and there and saying, wait, what do you mean by that? It makes you think, oh, I guess the way I'm explaining it, just like you said, I need to shift a little bit in the way I'm explaining it or change. And it's constantly changing. That's the other thing. Any
Yeah,
kind of teaching is changing all of the time. It's
it's like
fluid.
university professors, right? They teach based on what their professor taught them, say 10 years ago. But as evolution happens, science results change, university knowledge changes, science changes, you've got to change the textbook. So that
Yes.
teacher is learning something that's outdated, and that teacher, that university professor, could have his own YouTube channel, which children as young as 6 are watching. So now the 6-year-old
Uh-huh.
can teach the teacher, who's supposed to be the one with the ultimate knowledge. But when you understand that the knowledge came from somebody who once was a student himself and once learned from a teacher, so knowledge just keeps getting funneled back around. And I love it
Yes.
when people question me and I end up being wrong, or I don't have an answer. I find it fascinating because I'm normally the one who's always right 90% of the
Uh-huh.
99% of the time. But when somebody says something and I don't have an answer and I have to go over my knowledge and realize, shit, I was wrong, I love that.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm the first to say
Uh-huh.
to them, you were right. I'm so grateful that you challenge me. Most people don't, they've not got the balls to. I really appreciate that. That empowers them, and they love the fact
Right.
that they basically outsmarted a very smart person. And it just shows you that it's not like, okay, if 10 people outsmart you and you've only got 10 bits of knowledge that was incorrect, you're not like 100% now. That knowledge will become old, ancient, new knowledge will come into play. So it's a constant thing about improving yourself, constantly going to the gym, because if you
Right.
don't go to the gym, you're going to get fat. You're not like, okay, well, if I go to the gym and I eat this amount, I will burn the same amount of energy and I won't put any weight on. That's just not how it works. There's always
Right.
new knowledge to learn, and there's always things
Exactly.
that people can edit that you thought you knew. It doesn't end.
Exactly. But and there's strength and vulnerability. You allowing your students and the people around you to realize that it's okay. You know, you're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong again in your lifetime. You're going to step in it and say something that you accidentally, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. You're going to do something. And you know that, and you know, you can just try your best and share what you can and grow all the time. Exactly. I love that.
The
I
thing I
love
love
that.
about not having topics or script is because if people are unsure of themselves, so they tend to write things and they follow it because then they know that as long as they stick to that, they'll be all right. And if
Yes.
somebody
Yes.
questions them, then they've at least got their notes about how to answer it. I love just speaking, talking like I know
Yes.
everything, jumping in, and then if, for example, somebody questions me, I'm on the spot. I have to observe and listen, and now I have
Mm-hmm.
a choice to keep speaking what I thought was right because I want to be right because I don't want to be wrong, or allow that
Right.
person to tell me why I'm wrong, take that
Right.
knowledge and bring it to my book of knowledge and increase my knowledge. I'd rather that.
Right.
I don't. I
That's,
can.
yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
I
Oh
love
my
being
gosh.
wrong.
You're just reminding me. I interviewed this guy recently. He wrote a book. It's called The Big You, because he's talking about how the universe works. There's the little you of you individually, and then the big you. That's what his book is about. But the first time he wrote the book, it was 700 pages. And he went to some spiritual guru in India, and the guy looked at his book and said, no, 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 it has to be 108 pages, because the number 108 on the beads of the mala and stuff, he had all these different spiritual reasons why it needed to be this many pages to explain his story. It took him 3 years to edit the book down from 700 pages down to 108, and he did it. But he was telling me that a lot of the 700 pages was a lot of quotes of other spiritual teachers, because he felt like he needed to validate himself, impress the readers, add credibility to his story by beefing it up with all these other, giving them, acknowledgement. But that's the way he wrote, and he filled it with a lot of stuff and a lot of stories. He felt like it needed to be more. And I think that's what we all do as humans. We add layers to ourselves that don't necessarily need to be there. It's okay just to be you. Your story and your teachings and your authentic sharing that is the ultimate value, is you individually. You don't have to go outside yourself and pull all these other things and say, well, this person agrees with me. This person agreed with me. This person said this thing 500 years ago, 5,000 years ago, and I'm feeling this and teaching you it now. You don't have to necessarily go back and fill in all that history. You can just be, this is true. You, Oliver, you are me, and I am you. And that's it.
Absolutely. Like every wise
You know,
person has learned from wise people who have learned from wise people who've learned from wise people, and it just keeps going back. So if it keeps
yeah,
going back to the same source, then we're all the same physically and all the same spiritually. We're just at different levels of knowledge, and we look
yeah,
different based on genetics of whether you came from a cow or a sheep, right? But
yeah,
everyone who follows the pattern of the follower is following the pattern of the follower versus the person who follows the pattern of the person who's wise, we all get to the same place. We all want to
yeah,
be that version. We're just following the wrong people. And it's like you could go around that block to get to there, or you could
right,
just go there,
right,
because we are all
right.
that person, and that's where we're all trying to be. And
Yes,
yeah, it takes time to, again, it all comes down to having that person to say enough knowledge to plant that seed. And then when you
right,
increase in that frequency, you will now attract those different types of people who will take you further into the positive zone. Whereas if people
right,
stick around people who don't know any of it, then they'll never know any of it. And that's why online, as much as it does fuck up everything, it's actually good because you can connect to people like us and other teachers on YouTube at such an early age that you can cut like 20 years of your life that you'd have to spend learning, finding these people in reality. You just find
right,
them on YouTube right now, and you could become those people overnight from all their knowledge. That's all it really is,
right,
just learning the same
right.
knowledge and then teaching it.
Well, one of the most beautiful things is when you see a teacher, like you said at the very beginning, and you think, I can do that. I can be that. And absolutely. I also think that there's nothing wrong with digging into the past or reading all those books and doing. Everybody receives the information at different times. Somebody may hear our conversation right now and not pay attention to it. And 5 years from now, something we said in here might help them, just like we were saying before. So you don't know when it's going to help. And you don't know how people are going to receive the information. Just like some people that I work with, they're writing books and they start to feel bad about themselves. They start to think, oh, that's already been said. That book has already been written. People have already taught that thing, law of attraction, whatever it may be. I'm like, no, everyone has a different way of communicating that. And even if you say it in exactly the same way as somebody else, the readers of your book are receiving the information at a different point in time in their life. So you don't know. when they're going to pick up that information. So I think it behooves all of us to keep speaking and keep generating the same message in a billion different ways and from a billion different voices, personalities, and energy signatures, because we don't know where they're going to resonate. And like I said, no breath is wasted.
It's true. Like if you think about how many different languages there are and how many languages mean something and how many different ways you can explain that meaning, you think, wow,
Yeah.
yeah, there might be 1,000 people who have spoke about it, but there's fucking like 1,000 languages anyway. So even if they have, by me explaining it in my way, which is unique to everyone else, based on my generation and my experience,
Yes.
it's going to be different. Like the generation who are, say, 6 or whatever, would listen to that book and they wouldn't understand the terms that he's using because that's based on his generation now. Whereas the generation before, when they didn't have phones and stuff, would have explained it in a different way, like with the newspaper way, for example. And then people of the generation would understand it in the newspaper way. But our generation, for example, understand it in terms of like online and stuff, which means the generation slightly back will get it. So even though many have wrote books over time, it's all circumstantial right now. And everyone understands something different at different times of their life. So again, it's about keeping moving. It's like tidy your bedroom as you go along, otherwise it'll build up and then you'll just stop. But if you keep going, then you'll be able to manage. If you keep writing the books and the knowledge as the information changes, then it will just keep flowing. Whereas if you suddenly stop and you think, oh, fuck it, bedroom's a mess anyways, no point, then life will go on.
And that's where despair and hopelessness comes from. And that's where we really need to focus on the idea of moving forward, especially in our crisis right now with the health crisis, of course. You know, it's going to get worse, but we have to go forward, moving forward. And everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
I've got a question for you. Do you think everything happens for a reason, or do we find reason in things that have happened to give us comfort?
I think number 2.
Same. I do agree.
Yeah.
It's like, if you say everything happens for a reason, it's like God or someone is making this flu happen, for example, to make us more appreciative of family and stuff. And it's like, well, no, because life is going to do what it's going to do. And we find meaning. If somebody says like, oh, I was meant to have a car crash. Well, not really, because, you know, man created car, blah, 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 blah. It's this is a bad experience. And you can either think, oh, fucking hell, I haven't got a leg for the rest of my life. Or use it as an excuse to join the Paralympics and win gold in the Olympics and then change the world that way. So we find reason, we find comfort in negative things, I think.
You know what we do though? We create the reason.
Yeah.
We create the reason. Our response to the situation, we create it. So how we choose to react to something is under our control. You know, we can, I think everything happens for a reason, but I think it doesn't matter whether it was preconceived or after the fact. I think it's just life. It just keeps going forward and we create the reason. The reason my car got trashed is because I needed a new car. I decided I need a new car. I'm going to go buy a new car. That was the reason. I choose my reason, you know, and that can happen at the most basic level. The reason is because we needed the President of the United States to find some humility. That might be the reason it happened. That's the reason. We choose our reasons.
Yeah, it's like if you go to the roulette and you put the money down, and you say, well, I was meant to do that, right? And if you don't bet and it doesn't come in, you say, well, I was meant to do that because I would have lost money. So we find a reason for and against to align our thoughts. So if you want to find like a reason to get a new car, we'll say, oh, this car's meant to go down. Yeah, so we find if you're on this positive roll of everything going your way, then it's you don't. It's just part of life. And if there's negatives, then you also find positive reasons to counteract that. Otherwise, you're faced with the fact that I've got no car, and I was coming to an end.
You know, when I was in college, I was waitressing a lot, and one New Year's Eve, we stayed up all night. And at 3 a.m, we decided we were going to go skiing. So we all jumped in a car and went skiing, and I was exhausted and I crashed, and they had to bring me down in that little wagon down the slopes and stuff. And it ruined my waitressing career. Like, it forced me to change my trajectory in life. And yeah, things happen. And it's like, things happen for a reason. But one of the things, the age old question, of course, when you're talking about God and religion, is why, what kind of a God would allow babies to die? And it's not a conscious causing of anything. It's natural progression of life and nature. And I don't think that it's all planned out necessarily. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, it's
Yeah.
not
It's
about,
not done with intention. Somebody didn't like crash my car or hurt my knee or cause my grandma to die. You know, it's life. It's life. It's
yeah,
life.
it's absolutely.
So, but I'm so glad that we had this conversation. I actually, one of the things I was gonna tell you is, I personally, if we were gonna go into the whole masculine, feminine energies, a discussion like that, I was gonna share with you that I personally have a thing about technology, obviously, since I couldn't get Skype to work.
Yeah, I
But
can't
it's
stand technology, but
interesting.
I need it for this.
Exactly. I think it's one of those things. I was just talking to a client yesterday. She hates going on video like this. She wants to be in person with people. But especially in our crisis right now, we need to get over it, because that is the only way that we're going to be able to connect with people. And this is just so awesome. Where do you live, Oliver? Where are you?
Windsor Castle in England.
Oh, oh, I didn't know you were royalty.
No, 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 not actually Windsor Castle, like that area. But that's the thing. Our type of minds are spread out all around the world, different countries. I
Yes.
can't just go to London and do a physical podcast. I'll be like forever fucking finding that person. Whereas you put
Yes.
everything out online, they already know the same people. So you just connect to all those same types of people. So we have no
Yes.
choice but to go online, because
Yes.
we're the only monks in the country who know it. There's no monks in the village that know it. So you have no choice. It's just what
Yes.
it is. It's just,
Yes.
as you said, you can look at the bad for technology, but also the good. I mean, I can't stand the whole
Yes.
fucking. I can't stand
It's a
it.
love-hate relationship.
But you have to use it, otherwise you will become extinct yourself. And if you don't connect with
Yes.
people on the same brain as you, even though I can't touch you, they're just going to go
Yes.
crazy. Keeps you
Hi.
saying that there's people
There you
out
are.
there.
There you
Yeah,
are. High five. Or the elbow bump, since
yeah. You
we
can't
we,
touch
we
hands
can't
anymore.
hug or shake hands anyway.
No.
But
Fist
yeah.
bump.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I gotta run.
No
And
problem.
what a great conversation. Thank you so much, Oliver, for sharing your space with me.
Do you want to quickly say your podcast again?
It's Strong Body, Strong Soul. And I named it that because I'm a meditation teacher and I'm a personal trainer. I had both my knees replaced, though. So I'm all about modification. So I'm really about self-compassion, and the meditation aspect of what I do just really rolls into being a strong body and a strong soul.
And
You have both of them.
you definitely
Yes.
recommend knee surgery if it becomes too painful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely, I'm all into holistic, going as natural as you can first on anything. But yeah, yeah. Technology, modern technology, medicine, whatever it may be, embrace it. It's a gift from God. I think social media is a gift from the divine. It's here for us to connect with like-minded people across the world and make that connection, that internet, that energetic connection across the planet, even stronger and tighter. So if you guys are interested, go check out the podcast, check out the YouTube. The podcast I'm more active on because it's a little easier just to speak into the microphone and have interviews and such. With YouTube, I got to put a little makeup on and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's not as easy to do that. But thank you so much.
No problem. I'm going to press stop. Is that all I have to do? Just press stop recording. That's it.
I think so.